Well, G&D Vicarja, you're all very welcome to Telling Tales. I am Chris. I'll be your GM for this one shot today, and I bring you terrible tidings from the end of space and time. But before we get into the various details of that, I'd just like to welcome you to the channel and let you know a little bit about who we are. This is Telling Tales. Like so many before us, we stream online TTRPG content, tabletop role-playing, here on Twitch, and we have a vast library of VODs on YouTube. If you are on Twitch right now, you can scroll down below and find links to all of our various socials, including our Patreon, please give us money, and all of our other bits and pieces. We stream weekly, 3-ish games, 3.5 games a week. On Monday, right now, we play Warhammer role-playing game. On Wednesday, this week, if you're in the mood for a bit of sleuthing, we are about to start a short series of Blade Runner from Free League. And on Thursdays, it's complicated, but it oscillates between a long-running game of Wicked Ones, which is fantastic, and I play in, and a game of The Big Wet, which is great, and I also play in. Those are coming to a close soon, and there will be some new hotness there. Some well-received systems will be getting a shot at the limelight on the Thursday afternoon series shortly. We do one-shots, which you probably know if you're watching this, and those are monthly. Last month, we did a Troika one-shot. And the reason we did a Troika one-shot is we have also, perhaps unwisely, dipped our toe into the creation of online role-playing content, and we have run and funded a Kickstarter for our first source book, which is a published sphere, a published setting for the Troika system. It is called The Soft. It is a planet-sized pillow fortress where nothing goes wrong and there is no risk and no nameless, terrifying entities driven mad by the absurdity of the situation. Everything's fine. If you check in chat, hopefully we will get a nice little link to that, and you can go and throw your 2 cents in. If you back us, you get your name in the back of the book, or the back of the PDF. But on to this afternoon's proceedings. So, yeah, this is Death in Space. It is a sequential sequel to the previous Death in Space. There's Cold Comfort at LZ13, which I ran, I think, last year. And you don't need to have seen that to understand this, but the characters are the same, and we're skipping time forward a little bit to kind of smooth over some of the cracks of the unresolved plots and that, which I will certainly not be using in this. You may, if you're not picking up on the sarcasm, let me tell you it's dripping with it. So we're not running this Death in Space game in Tenebris. We're running it in a system of which we ran it in the last time. Let me tell you a bit about the star system of Karok. Even before the Great Gem War that brought about the essential cataclysm that is the apocalypse of Death in Space, this place was a backwater. It is a number of gas giants with a countless number of moons and no habitable worlds. It's the beacon for the FTL anchoring point for the bridging devices. That went offline 58 years ago. A tug with a replacement should have arrived 11 years ago. The system is six gas giants and a ton of, as I mentioned, rocky moons. No solid object in this system has anything more than a catalog number. Everything is mined out. Civilization clings to life on the spin stations, gas skimmer arrays in the gas giants, and rat-run tunnels and moon complexes that have all seen better days. Everything in this universe has seen better days. The 3 rocky planets the 3 rocky moons in the system that orbit Uchther, the main sequence, the main gas giant, were once terraformed. But that terraforming has since boiled away or turned toxic or become terrible. You'll be joining our group of kind of salvage rats who kind of cling to life on a rather nice ship called the Farflung. And I would like to introduce the owner, I suppose, of that ship, who will be kind of our first person on stage today, and that is Matt.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. So Matt plays Aoi, I suppose I'd call it.
I think I decided on Aoi without
Aoi.
any, yeah. I think it is just a probably a random collection of 3 vowels. So I decided it was AOE.
Oh, fantastic. I love collections of 3 vowels, almost unpronounceable in all circumstances. You want to tell us just a little bit about your background from just a high level? What did you roll? What are you playing in this game?
Sure. So AOE, as Chris said, is the owner of the Farflung. And the reason why AOE owns such an old ship is because AOE themselves is very old. They are a soul pod, which is basically, I think I compared them last time to kind of like an EVE Online character, in that they sort of shuffle in and out of hibernation in order to try and keep themselves alive for a very long period of time. They have access to this like hibernation pod that regenerates them and keeps them alive. So AOE has probably been around. AOE has been around for centuries. Therefore, remembers, or in theory, remembers a lot about the events before the Gem War. In practice, the regeneration pod also kind of fucks with your memory and your brain. So, yeah, like a long-term hibernation type person. Do you want me to cover like their look, or should we save that until?
We'll save that. We'll roll that out when we're in kind of in situ. And I've got more stuff I'd like to tell you about what's happened in the interim, but I think we'll save that for just a little bit more. And let's bring on Steve, son. I'll do that. Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah. So, do you want to just give us a quick overview of Sun's biz? Yeah, just tell us about them.
Yeah, so Sun's origin in terms of sort of character class analog is void, which means they've seen things that perhaps they really weren't supposed to see out at the edges of the universe. So they're kind of a pretty strange individual. They've been yes, what to say. Not really sure there's much more to that.
They've been having a time.
They've been having a time, yes.
The Sun specifically, while their class has the ability to manipulate static, Sun got in the last adventure a little bit more, maybe a little bit more than they bargained for. Certainly more than is published in the rulebook, but maybe a little bit more about that later. And I'd like to, at this point, move on to another kind of not quite all there character in our roster of not quite all there characters. It's Alex, who plays Ergo.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm playing Ergo, who Chris has sort of concocted the perfect pun because Ergo is quite literally not all there, in that Ergo is a velocity cursed, which essentially means that they have to some extent become untethered from the usual paradigm of space and time, and so then their nickname is Glitch, because they sort of slightly glitch as if not fully real in a way. So that's Ergo's deal.
Great stuff. So let's talk about, at the end of, we're a year forward from where we ended up in the last game, and Matt, you have a debt to pay off for the mooring and resurrection of your ship. Do you have a number against that, or is it just listed as a?
Well, this is, we kind of talked about it on the Discord in the tenebrous like scenario that the book offers. Yeah, I think it lists like a suggested debt for starting players of 500 hollows, which is a lot.
So after the haul, which was significant from the previous work, that debt is now down to 100 hollows and one good job. So AOE, you're very aware that if you can get one decent kind of, if your luck comes up, you are free of the debt and free to navigate. And I kind of would like to know what, once unleashed from that debt, what's AOE's plan? What happens next?
AOE, they definitely have a thing, as everyone who encounters them will quickly realize. Obviously, they're a scavenger or salvager, or whatever you want to call it. Their focus is definitely on older places, older sites. specifically anything, even sometimes centuries old, where people would go, but that's been completely picked clean. Surely there's nothing of value there now. AOE is still very keen on going to those places and looking for something. Certainly not anything that they would tell anyone. Because if you've seen the first one shot, you will know AOE is definitely something of a closed book.
I'd like to write a page on that closed book, because as we come into today's game, or today's kind of scenario, as we go live, I want AOE in their previous repose to have had a dream memory of a very specific place which they have not hitherto been familiar with. It is a beautiful summer's day. You seem to be in some kind of park, if you even have a distant memory of what a park was. And you are in front of a step of dark stone, kind of ornamental steps that go from kind of this kind of beautifully manicured park from one level up to a next level. Kind of on the level above there, you can see a coppice of old growth trees that are very beautifully maintained and pedigree trees, I suppose, peditrees. Sorry. This does not line up with anything that you've previously experienced, but it does feel important.
Okay. Is this like is this a dream I'm sorry, is this like a lucid thing I'm in now, or is it just something I wake having and remember?
It feels lucid, but you cannot move. You're definitely kind of rooted to the place, and it seems important, but not for, you cannot gain any further goo from it unless you go to a dream counselor, and AO is probably not the kind of person to do that.
No.
So, ergo, no, my apologies. The next one on my list here is Steve, for specific reasons. So Steve, again, I think most everyone has, by accident, kind of ended up hanging out on or around the Far-Flung. You've done a couple of jobs, nothing as spectacular or well-paying as the previous one, and it's hard to say if AOI would ever allow you to call this place home, but it's definitely been a very good place to find at least some slight repose, and it has been a bit of a nexus for what little work you've been able to find. I want to ask Sun, I suppose, at what point did you realize that your relationship to the static was like almost entirely unique to you? You can't find anyone else who has the ability to kind of interface with this, with calling forth this energy, who's been able to kind of glean messages from it. So when did you make that kind of discovery?
Well, I suppose that the thing to say was that Sun wasn't always, like this. So Sun is dressed has a mask, a weird polygonal mask, dresses in sort of charcoal black robes, kind of a strange character. And also, if you ever get a glimpse of their flesh, it's horribly scarred, bullet holes, all sorts of nastiness. But he wasn't always like that. He did contract work. He was always very, basically, you could pay a sum and Sun would do a job. And one of those jobs took him out to the edges of space, and that's where things changed. So I don't know, I guess seeing like void types is fairly rare. But essentially, he was at the edge of space, something reached out and things changed, and that at that point, things in the static just started to, they weren't clear, but over time, just little whispers of voices and so on just started to mean more and more to him as he listened more closely.
So it's fair to say, as mentioned, this is somewhat unique to Sun, but without descending into becoming some weird kind of soothsaying oracle, you have been spending time kind of occasionally just listening to the patterns that you can just hear at the very back of your mind, especially when it's quiet or when everyone else is asleep. the last time we had an adventure together, you found out that the static felt cold. This time, kind of as of late, over the last week or so, the static feels afraid. And amongst kind of the little voices and kind of bits of information you can pull out of it, the fear comes around this one phrase, which is Alud Nelak. Doesn't make any sense to you, but it's like a name. It feels like a name.
Okay.
So, Alex and Ergo, tell me a little bit, what happened? How did you get so screwed up? When did you become glitchy?
In my mind, it's not something that would occur around, say, a singular event. It would be something where Ergo would, perhaps with Ergo has a passion for finding out about the sort of the deep hidden secrets about space, which lends itself to poking around and exploring around more exotic phenomena, perhaps around sort of neutron stars and black holes and sort of things like that. And I think as a result of sort of prolonged exposure to these kinds of unexplained phenomena, and the sort of the warping of the fabric of time and space itself, to some extent, it's kind of untethered Ergo from the usual grounding of reality to which people are accustomed. And I don't think that's something. Sorry.
You looked into the glitch, and the glitch stared back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think Ergo doesn't understand anything about it himself. I don't think Ergo understands what is happening to him. But I think it's a sort of well, I'll leave it open as to whether it proves to be a sort of deteriorative kind of condition, or whether it's sort of just the way he is now as a result of poking around those stranger, wrong corners of space.
So, Ergo, obviously you've been doing kind of odd jobs with these three and maybe some others over the last year or so. In so doing, you have managed to secure yourself, by accident rather than design, one light EVA suit. So you're welcome to put that on your list of things. I would point out that despite some tinkering, it needs a little bit more work. And while perfectly serviceable, you will be permanently down 1 oxygen level. So please make a note that no matter what happens, you're always 1 oxygen below everyone else. There's just something up with the tank. You'd probably be able to fix it if you had a few hours, but it never really gets to the top of the priority list.
Funny that.
But that hasn't come to bite you yet at all, and I don't think it will. So, with our cast assembled here, I want to take a quick moment, just in more general terms. I want to talk about Telling Tales. We operate the Lines and Veils system. So people can bring forth kind of veils where there are certain topics that we won't discuss on, or we won't kind of enter into on stream, and lines, which, veils are things that we can reference in the meta plot, but we will not discuss as part of our action, and lines, which are hard stops. This will never become, this will never come up. These are all on our Discord if you want to look into them, but I will also add that for this particular stream, we've got some content warnings on claustrophobia, suffocation, and insinuation of abuse in metaplot. So if that bothers you, be warned. So, actually, Ergo, I want to go back to you because
I mean, not to make a joke about it, but you mentioning EVA suits and then immediately mentioning a content warning for suffocation and claustrophobia.
It's fine.
It bothers me. It bothers me.
I had a feeling that this EVA suit suddenly showing up in my between time might not be an accident.
No, I just love the timing. You have an EVA suit and it's down some oxygen. By the way, there's going to be asphyxiation.
Yeah, just so you know.
Love it.
So, actually, I want to go back to Urgo because on top of there is a palpable sense that's like you don't have as much skin in this game as AI does, but there is the sense that there's one good job. If you can get one good job, then you can get away from your location. And you've been kind of like, these jobs don't come up, and there are a lot of salvagers. It's like it's the thing everyone does to kind of stay alive, unless you're lucky enough to have the means to be self-sufficient out here, which no one really does. And you think you have the ghost of a job here. And I'll talk about more about how that looks in just a moment. But I would like to spend just a short period discussing about where you are right now. And you are, maybe you're on the far-flung, or maybe you're near the far-flung, but you're also living on the, you're tethered to, or at least living tangential to the station, which is called, oh, why didn't I write it down in the bit here?
That's a long
name.
name.
My goodness. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
The
Ian,
station
thanks.
is called F8427E. That's why I should have memorized it, but I didn't. And let me show you just what it looks like for a bit of flavor, shall I? This is a spin station. It's an old kind of infrastructure support station for back when the gas giant that kind of sits over was sort of in active use. It is in terrible condition, but it is home to quite a lot of people. It's kind of the regional capital of the area. And there it is. This is from the Death and Space core book, which is a delight. A lot of people live on this, maybe 400 or 500. And among them, thank you very much, Matt. Among them are some there are kind of taskmasters. There's no real power structure, but the taskmasters you've worked with the most are called Tip and the Boys, and they have kind of a weird hulk of a ship that kind of sits near F8, the F8 station, and you're kind of tethered to that. It's been a real handy kind of shipyard for you, AOI, to kind of tinker and get. And that's kind of where you are today. But let's talk more about where you might have this new job. So there's a lot of stuff in this system. It is not really an empty system. It is a derelict system. And you're on the gas giant furthest from the sun, and the gas giant's called Ahar. And you have discovered that there is an old station. There are a lot of old stations, but you found one, and you've got some additional information about that station, which might make it worth going to take a look at. It's a 3-week burn if you're going subtly, and you probably should go subtly, because what you don't want to do is give anyone a clue that there's something else out there that might be worth looting. And like, the station has been gutted. It's been gutted over 100 years. There are plenty of little bits of information that it's of the previous expeditions that have gone there. And Alex, you've been pretty studious and gone through and got all the information. The previous salvage reports kind of list all the stuff they've got out of it, or at least you can piece it together from the various kind of following up on the various bits and pieces. There's one kind of crown jewel, I suppose, that remains in the middle of this station, and it is a counterfactual quantum zero-point energy pump. It's basically a quantum computer. It's exceptionally rare. There aren't any in the system of Karok. Several expeditions have gone there specifically to try and get this thing out, but because there aren't any in the system, there never were, no one has the tools to get it out. It doesn't really start up. It seems to be locked into some kind of self-diagnostic cycle, and it's there. If you can get it out, it'll be worth an absolute fortune. It's been declared a lost cause. The tools to remove it and make it worthwhile to remove it, even getting those tools would be worth an expedition. But in your digging, you've discovered that the most recent expedition went out a year ago, and apparently they had at least some tools that could have done the job. And that expedition did not return. And needless to say, if you can get this thing out, if you can get this thing working, you will be the kings of this system. If you can get it detached and salvaged, you'll have enough money to at least clear AOI's debt. So I suppose your discovery of this will be our opening kind of inciting moment here. And Matt, would it be okay to say that everyone's kind of hanging out on the far flung at the minute? There's
it's AOI's kind of like enthusiasm for allowing people on the far flung when a job isn't happening is directly in proportion to how much AOI feels a job needs to be imminent. So I think, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think maybe what's been going on is people have been kind of brainstorming ways to get, I think, the last 100 or so hollows of this debt cleared off. So maybe you're all sitting there. Do you want to describe the Farflung? Because I know you have a nice little description of how kind of eccentric that ship is.
Yeah, so it kind of looks like one of the sort of stereotypical old UFO type looks, in that it's kind of long and very narrow. It's kind of cigar shaped with kind of rounded ends. The interior is quite sort of eccentric in its layout, in that it's literally just a series of rooms, one after the other. So there's, one immediately follows onto the next. So there's no quick way to move through the, if you have to go from one bit of the ship to the other, you have to go through all these rooms to get there. In terms of how the interior looks, shambolic would be a very good descriptor for it. All cables, interfaces, like sensors and all kinds of weirdness everywhere, while the exterior and kind of the bulk of the infrastructure of the structure of the ship internally is very centuries old. And it's one of those things where it's old-fashioned, which means it's well built, which means it's lasted this long, but it's at the end of its well-built life cycle. You know what I mean? Very fancy, but old enough to be borderline derelict. Like I say, all lots of cables and stuff. In terms of the internal structure, I haven't really figured out, because there aren't any like modules particularly, but the front is obviously like the bridge, and the rear, I think we determined, is like lots of the vital systems. So, and then in between, there are probably a couple of chambers of like a living space and stuff like that. But it's generally very cramped.
So ergo, you're connected physically. You've got a fairly sophisticated tablet computer that's physically connected to the Ergo, which is physically connected to Tip and the Boys ship, which is physically connected to the F8 station. And that's where you've been doing your research. And you've just come across the eureka moment where you've pieced all these pieces together. And so you're probably going to want to rush forward in the ship to where the others are and let them know. On that note, like Sun, Sun and AOI, where are you in the ship right now?
I'd probably certainly be on the bridge.
Yeah, I'd probably be in the living quarters, maybe, I don't know, with a pack of cards or something, just doing some sort of solitaire style. Maybe, there's like he's got the radio on nearby, but it's just, again, gentle static, and he's just sort of listening to the static. He's shuffled cards and then just turning cards over, trying to place them, essentially predict what the cards are before he turns them over.
I was going to say, given like Sun's spookiness and robes and etc., would it even be like a sort of pseudo Death in Space tarot deck rather than
sure, yeah,
like game cards?
Yeah.
Holy crap, I'd kickstart the hell out of that for you, please.
Yeah, and like I say, AO's on the bridge. Sats. Probably, if someone didn't know AO and walk on the bridge, they'd probably think they were either dead or asleep or not even an actual human. They're that still.
So, ergo, you need to break the news. How are you going to do that?
Well, I think Ergo would go straight to the bridge on the basis that it's AOI's ship and AOI would be the person to convince, right? And also, it's if anyone would have a prime motivation and interest in this piece of news, it would be them. So yeah, I think Ergo's gonna rush through the ship, because this is obviously something that you would not want to sleep on, and not something you would see every day. So
It's pretty unusual to see anyone rush anywhere in this day and age. So Ergo has just kind of floated straight past you, because it's is there artificial gravity on the Far-Flung?
Well, the Far-Flung will be docked, right? I would imagine. So
yeah, so
it'll
there
be
is. Yeah,
whatever is
so
on
just
the,
kind of
on the mission.
clunking past towards the bridge with a look of unusual vigor in their eyes.
it's a cylindrical ship, so I imagine it's just doing a permanent barrel roll to have gravity. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, Ergo's gonna Ergo will approach Aoi, and I think will obviously be familiar enough with Aoi that the state of pseudo livingness sat in the bridge won't be off-putting.
Yeah, when I see Glitch sort of go past at unusual speed, I'll put the cards away and then sort of appear, probably silhouetted in the doorway, just waiting for news to be.
That's not ominous. Of all the silhouettes that we have as a group,
Yes.
Sun is definitely the most intimidating.
Yeah.
Just for like the visuals of it, by the way, the bridge, as I say, doesn't have much room, and it sort of very much narrows near the front of it. And the primary piloting seat is sort of it's probably one of the best conditioned things still on the ship, and it's rammed into to the point where it's entirely. I think you mentioned actually Ego's quite a small guy, right? I think you remember you mentioned that in the first one shot, so maybe you can.
Yeah.
But most people would struggle to get into this chair, but because Aoi is so kind of skeletally slender, they can just kind of crawl. And when they're nestled into it, because it's so big and enclosing, it's almost like it's part of them. Like there's cables running alongside, and it's almost like Aoi almost seems kind of plugged in,
Sort of
like part of the bridge.
Tech priest vibes kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. So Ergo sort of wraps on the bulkhead.
Aoi slowly, as if waking up from a deep sleep, although their eyes were perfectly open, kind of slowly turns around and just stares at you.
I don't want to get your hopes up, and I'm not one for getting excited about opportunities out here too often, but I may have found something that you will want to have a look at.
Aoi blinks, which is the first time you see any kind of like motion in the eyes or the face. Go on.
I think Ergo's just gonna move over and basically show Aoi the tablet with the schematics of. I presume there's like a schematic or something of like the quantum computer and its sort of suggested location in this sort of. I guess it's in some kind of like bulky mainframe, right? You said it requires like specialist tools to extricate. So I imagine there's sort of like streams of data around that, and that would be sort of readable by people other than Ergo. If we can get our hands on this, we're pretty free and clear. I think we might actually get out from under this debt we've been trying to clear for so long. There is a catch. This is a very specialized piece of kit, and that specialism comes with tools that we don't have. Now, there is a chance, based on these previous reports, that this team a year ago, they tried to extract it, apparently, which indicates that there's a high likelihood they would have brought the required tools with them. But no one knows what happened to them. The records just end.
Chris, could I ask for a roll, please?
Yeah, what are you planning?
Do you think that if I roll tech, because I am old enough to not maybe remember clearly, but remember roughly the notion of these quantum computers, do you think I could roll to see if Aoi thinks that even if we don't find the other expedition tools, that Aoi would stand even a remote chance of improvising tools to remove from the mainframe?
Yeah, give me a roll on that.
Okay, so this is the first roll we've made. Death in Space uses a D20 system. You're looking for 12s or above, so higher is better. And basically, there are 4 stats. They all have modifiers that for beginning characters hover kind of between, I think, -3 and +3, or -2 and +2, around then anyway. And you add those modifiers, and that's it, really. I'm going to be rolling tech with a +1, so I basically need 11 or above. That's a 1. So just to counteract my amazing luck in the first one shot. Maybe I don't even remember these quantum computers at all.
What computer?
Yeah. So you haven't seen one of these before, Matt, but what you do know, what you do get, and what you do remember, is there certainly shouldn't be any in this system. So whatever this is, it's an interloper.
Aoi will reach out and kind of touch the face of the tablet and kind of the schematic of this quantum computer in a slightly odd and off-putting, almost loving way. All right. Yes.
Okay. Am I to understand that this will be our priority then? Are we going to move now?
Aoi kind of slowly again, as if still coming out of some deep sleep, turns back towards the entranceway and says, "And you?"
Looking at Sun, or
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing better to be doing.
Go strap in.
Steve,
Aoi
just
is starting up the launch prep already.
Just do you want to give me a savvy roll there, Steve?
Okay. My savvy is. What? Sorry.
Just to see if Sun can think of anything better to do than playing cards or finding a quantum computer.
There was a nice pinball machine on the on the space station.
Have you heard of this game Wonder Home?
I rolled a
Well,
10.
if we get the quantum computer, you can play Pal World. So.
Oh, nice. No,
Wonder Home is definitely the game people play in Death in Space. Yeah.
Yeah. So 10 under 12. That's a failure from me. And yes, failed rolls give you void points.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't forget your.
Which you can spend either for an advantage on a roll, or if you have a void mutation, you can power it with that. But I don't think any of us have void mutations.
No.
Yet.
Okay, so the word is given, and as the Farflung kind of detaches its umbilicals, do you want to talk through the process of this vintage vessel kind of pulling away from the station?
Sure, yeah. Like the whole, I think we established on the last one, the whole of the Farflung kind of like, but especially the rear kind of vibrates with an odd, almost to the molecular level. You feel like you're not just being like, you're not being flung around so much as you're just being incredibly uncomfortably vibrated to the very core of your being. And that's mainly on, takeoff and landing, but like also a bit in between. and it's just not that you'll particularly feel it, other than an increasing sense of weightlessness for a moment before. Yeah, it does have artificial gravity. It's old enough that that's standard, and it is still functioning. But in the moments between that, you'll feel like the lurch as it sort of detaches off the station, and like I think we said, it will literally just roll, like it's rolling away from the station, and that's definitely an unpleasant and nauseous feeling until the gravity kicks in, which increases the vibration. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
And this is your life for the next 3 weeks, because while you're not leaving the local system, Ahur, the gas giant, is very large, and this orbital maneuver is an awkward one. It's a lot of big inclination change, and so I'd like Alex, can you give me a savvy roll as well? I'll give you a second chance at this.
I can certainly try, Chris.
Because you've had your head in the game for a bit on the actual scope of the scheme.
That's a 17 minus 1, so 16. And I'm going to get an easier to read die out than that one.
So
I do that.
So one of the quirks about Ahur is, as the furthest entity from the core of the system, it's the closest to the void, and it is for that reason probably one of the spookiest objects in the system. Specifically, things passing into its shadow and coming out of its shadow. Like you don't go into the shadow of Ahur is kind of the kind of given assumption. Not that everyone who goes into the shadow dies, but there have been more than a few kind of Bermuda Triangle weirdness things happening here. This spin station is about, you're going to make it before it goes into the shadow, but you're not going to have a huge amount of time there. Again, are you superstitious? Because it's probably fine.
I feel like Ergo, given their... It's interesting with Death in Space, because I feel like Ergo and their fascination with the sort of esoteric things around the weirder stuff in space, they're sort of treading a line between being like scientifically curious, but also like there's definitely weird stuff going on that borders on the supernatural from the perspective of the human beings trying to, suffer their way through it. So I feel like it's inevitable that a bit of superstition creeps in. Yeah. So I think there's a healthy mistrust of the sort of the void and the unknown. So yeah. So I think, yes, Ergo will probably approach AI and intimate this window, and maybe urge that we make haste.
I'm not sure AI would respond to that, and therefore I guess it would leave you a little uncertain as to whether AI has registered it and will compensate for it, or whether AI considers it complete foolishness
beneath their notice. Okay, in which case I think I'll do this in character then. So Ergo, seeing this sort of lack of response, we'll take a different tact. So I'll say, disregarding that operating within the shadow poses certain unknowns that make me uncomfortable for reasons we don't need to get into. It also, pragmatically speaking, makes operations more difficult. It is easier to operate in the light.
And I'll actually just check on, because I know Chris likes his actual scientific facts here. Would it also cut off communication to the core station?
Generally not, but in this case, it 100% will. The F8 station is at the Lagrange 2 point above Ahur, or in front of Ahur. So if you put a massive gas giant between yourself and them, radio's not getting through, especially not with the static like it is around the backside of Ahur.
In that case, AOI will kind of slowly reach up and tap one of the readout screens near the the piloting chair, which is, and I think I described in the last one, they're mainly like big, heavy metal, bulky like frames with readout screens like that, with almost impenetrable old, like, because it's all old, like hardly anyone will be able to pilot this other than AOI, just because they can't read the screens because it's out of date. But AOI is going to reach up and kind of tap one of the screens there and say, also communications will be dead. We'll make a risk assessment if it comes to it.
Speaking of risk assessment, is there something Ogo can roll? I don't know if it'd be savvy or tech, because I don't know if you'd be using sense or something to ascertain whether the orbit of this thing is degrading, or whether it cohabits that orbit with anything else that is known and on the charts, or anything dangerous like that.
Yeah, so yeah, I think you're going to do a little bit of math here. So just give me a savvy roll.
Okay. Not exactly my strong suit. Though that is a 19 minus 1, so it's 18.
Still good enough. This station has been on the books for a couple of 100 years as far as the things back. So if the orbit was degrading, it would have degraded by now. So it seems like it's a pretty stable and safe bet. You do kind of, some of the other stuff you get is, you do get kind of the system, the station has had a number of names kind of over the years, kind of P9 is one of them, and C6 based on kind of old catalog numbers. So not really any kind of good stuff there, just maybe a little bit of flavor. One that does jump out, because the rest are all catalog entries. One of them that jumps out is penal orbital of the Zerb polity G356927.
I'll stick with P9, I think.
So that's our, I think. What are you doing to pass the time? This is 3 weeks. It's going to get a bit dull. And I suppose AOI, it's almost not worth asking you, because you're almost timeless, aren't you?
No, you're absolutely right. AOI, who barely sleeps out of the kind of soul pod, is going to primarily be at any one point either on the bridge or in the like infrastructure chamber at the back, just moving between things, making sure everything is running as it should, like to a point of like, I don't need to be doing this. Like, this is an old junker ship, but like no one in their right mind would spend almost 24 hours a day doing this. But that's what AOI does.
Son, how are you keeping yourself entertained?
I might sort of approach Glitch at some point during these 3 weeks and ask, like, do you know where the last lot went wrong?
Unfortunately, all I can glean from the records is that they went and they didn't come back. Details are extremely scarce. As a side note, out of character, I'm assuming that basically what I'm reading here are like traffic logs, or like, you know, departures and yeah.
Interestingly enough, I'm going to ask Sun for a savvy roll on that, because you can connect a few dots here if you want.
Okay, that if I can make the roll, of course.
If you can make the roll.
Although I think actually I'll spend a void point this time, just to
for advantage. Okay.
Yes. So 2d20, take the highest. Well, that doesn't happen very often. I rolled 2 20s.
Wow, that does not happen very often.
Did you get a bonus for that? It's like
you don't, but maybe.
That's
if I'm feeling generous.
That's a pretty low chance.
1 in 400. Is that right?
Sounds about
yep,
right.
20 times 20. Right. So, I think the crux of the matter here, and like you were asking how you piece this information together. It was a mission. Like the previous crew did not want anyone to know they had these tools, and or at least they presumed they had these tools. They didn't tell anyone they were leaving, which is why no one else seems to have gone after them. They're not on any logs. They're not they didn't post in any message boards about the situation. They did this on the quiet because if you were about to make pay dirt, you would do it on the quiet as well. Yeah, so they went quietly, as did you. It's good to point out.
Well, I suppose perhaps luck will be with us instead of them.
I would rather rely on preparation than luck. It's a shame I have no idea what to prepare for. Is there any record, by the way, do we know what size this team was or anything like that?
Yeah, you find you don't, obviously they have no logs on the actual situation, but you do find there were 4 people on board. By a bit of scooting about, you find that the ship was about the same size as the Far-Flung, maybe a little bit more modern. You get 4 names. Roach, Roddy, Shakespeare, and Kovan are the 4 names who you have to deduce this by kind of subtractive analysis because no one kind of signed up for this mission. So by kind of working out who was doing what and where, you've discovered that it's the most likely that these 4 somewhat well-known salvagers were on this boat at the same time, and you've now discovered where they were going.
So in conclusion, a larger, better prepared and better equipped crew than us went to go and do this job and were never heard from again. Excellent.
So it's been a while, and eventually, AI, you get a proximity alert from the Far-Flung as you're approaching the station. You get 2 proximity pings.
Okay, I'm going to I'm going to analyze the sensor data and try and figure out, for a start, why I'm picking up 2 signals. Although I would assume that one of those signals is the docked vessel of the previous expedition, but I want to verify. Do I have to make a roll for that, or is it just reading the data?
I'd say you can read the data on this one, and your assumption is astute, but for the fact that vessel is not docked, it is in a degenerate kind of orbit of the station, kind of some kind of 100 or so meters out. It seems completely dead in the water. It's not a living ship anymore.
Right. Is it safe for me to assume, and this is just flavor then, that if the ship is orbiting the station and hasn't fallen into orbit just off the gas giant, then this station is a long way above the gas giant?
Yeah, you're a fairly long distance. I'm not even going to put a number on it, but it's in probably the hundreds of thousands of kilometers.
Is there anyone else on the bridge?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 ping.
We know we're approaching the thing, right? So yeah, it makes sense.
2 pings. The expedition ship is there. It's not docked.
Is it moving?
It's dead. It's dead in the water. Around the station. I think we should look there first.
Can you see any damage?
Chris, can I perform some kind of more detailed sensor analysis of the ship?
I'm gonna need a tech roll from you, because the Far-Flung is not. This is more Soyuz than SpaceX. This thing does not have GoPros taped to it.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to use my void point because I think that's quite valuable.
Probably lots of tape, though, to be fair.
Yeah. I got 2 successes. That's double the information, right, Chris?
Yeah, 100% double the information. So I'll just say the next bit twice. There is no damage. The ship is definitely it's not spinning like at 100 RPM a second, but it is not under control, not under command. It has not stabilized itself. It is just kind of in space, dead.
Someone should write a TTRPG having some variation of that as the name. Out of interest, because we live in a junker sci-fi world here, how would one go about boarding a ship like this? Like, I'm guessing there's no bridge that we could deploy. I'm guessing it's a case of EVA out, try and find a way in our EVA suits.
We don't have like fancy umbilicals, and all the docking ports are like expect to work together and blah blah blah.
So, like, in a lot of work has been done over the time when Karok kind of fell out of communication with the rest of the civilized quote unquote universe, and everything can pretty much dock to everything, but it's always generally ship to station, ship to ship. I mean, it would, if you had a different ship which had cameras, you could take a look and see what they were, but there's no way you'll be able to ascertain, especially with it in a dead power state. Your best bet's to just suit up.
I assume as well that it being dead in the water, that it's sort of at least somewhat tumbling or rotating, which make it extremely. Yeah.
Which also means that, realistically speaking, and Aoi will express this, and you can sense the conclusion that Aoi is going to reach at the end of this, someone has to stay on the far flung. And you've worked with Aoi enough that if someone's going to stay on the far flung, that's going to be Aoi. If you go in, we might first be able to recover the tools if they're still aboard. Second, they may have more information about the conditions on the station. And third, you may have gained some clue as to why they're floating dead in the water and have been gone for a year.
Yes, we might find that out very quickly. I would feel better if I saw damage on this ship, honestly. The fact that it's not damaged seems worse. Seems worse to me. But we're not going to know anything until we go and find out, I suppose. It's concerning to me to think that they got here and didn't even get over to the station with the tools. We'll see.
That is an assumption.
Okay, well, I don't see anything to be gained by standing here on the bridge speculating, so let's go.
I believe we established in the last one that I can patch in, the Farflung can patch into EVA suits comms. So
Yeah.
All right, son.
So-
It's you and me.
So the pair of you have light EVA suits. Aoi, it's a spinning ship, but it's trivial to kind of station keep with it. It is in a kind of geometrically sensible spin, and it's not doing any kind of numbers of RPM a second that's of concern. If you two are both going in the suits you have, what you don't have is a thrust pod. So you'll be kind of firing a grapple across and kind of scooting along the grapple line.
Now, this is obviously a totally ludicrous question, Chris, but we don't have any kind of, hooked tether or anything of that nature, so that we can like clip ourselves on to things.
I think like a clip and a fabric line is why wouldn't you have that? It's like going dungeoneering and not having a rope.
I know that this is like a motley crew and everything's held together by chewing gum and dreams, but I do feel like not bringing
it's the first thing you spend your money on, right? Like,
yeah.
No, 100%. You can have some space rope, and this is not like, it would be a lot easier if you could borrow Aoi's suit, which does have a thrust pod, but that's probably not going to be volunteered.
Yeah. Didn't even bother
AOE will
asking
listen.
AOE if I could borrow their better suit.
AOE will listen to your cost risk analysis on it if you really want to argue the point, but like certainly they're not going to volunteer their expensive heavy EVA suit to.
I mean, you know, Argo's taking a tablet with them, and that seems pretty expensive. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that's yours, right?
Yeah, but you need it. It has utility to you. Anyway, it's fine. This goof doesn't have mileage. It's fine.
Abandon the bet. Yeah, so it doesn't take too long to don the suits, and I assume you're going to kind of evacuate one of the segments of the far flung to vacuum, probably near the door, with these two kind of holed up and ready. The door swings open, and the majesty and beauty of space, because bear in mind, the Farflung doesn't have windows, so this is the first time you've seen outside in a while. The beauty is astounding. Aher in its kind of brown, milky, kind of monotone color, still reflecting kind of its late evening light, and you can see the ship silhouetted against the stars and lit up maybe by some kind of cruising spotlights from the ship. You can pretty easily affix the. Do you know what? No, it's not that easy. Who wants to throw the rope to kind of tether?
Let me check my stats, and I'll get back to you.
What skill would that be?
Let me see. What do we think makes sense? It's going to be Dex, 100%.
Yeah, I'm completely average at that. So.
I have +3.
Well,
And
I mean, not that I'll still fail the roll, but you know.
You have been voluntold.
Yeah, sorry.
Might remind you that your rolls are at disadvantage because this is 0G.
Oh,
You're
even
in an
better.
EVA suit.
Even better. Right.
So because it's a straight line trajectory, it's harder.
Well, I rolled a 16 and an 18, +3. Yeah, both of those would have.
The rolls have been fire so far, and now I'm just worried that
it's not
the tank's going to run empty when something bad happens.
You are 100% happy in the solidity of this. You've actually got one of the docking pedals around the kind of the other ship's kind of universal adapter has just completely wrapped around it and locked in. You would bet your life, and you're about to, on the security of this link.
I'll turn to Glitch, and that's good. We're okay.
Okay. Let's do this then. Before it rotates and pulls the tether and causes crazy things to happen. Let's get a move on.
I'm keeping you steady. There's no concern.
Okay. You know, just things happen. So do we need to roll to like traverse this
on the
tether?
back of that success? I think this is going to be a very straightforward scoot across.
Very solid roll.
Yeah, you're all tethered in. This is as safe as doing anything in deep space is. Sun, when you're kind of away from the ship, when you're kind of out and kind of free to float a bit, maybe you just kind of take your hands off the rope and just let the tether do the work for a while. And there is once again the static kind of, you can almost feel it here. The void is almost palpable, and the static that carries it. There's still that fear, and there is a sense that normally you see patterns in the static, or you would if it was written down, but it's almost as if the static is lining up in a kind of ordered set. Not that it's giving you a message, just that it seems regimented and clean and in a straight line, which is not right for something that's supposed to be chaos.
Yeah, I will be perhaps a little distracted as we head over.
So maybe Ergo, you get there first, and you come across a very standard door that seems to be completely powered off. And as you're kind of appraising the situation, perhaps Sun kind of bumps into the back of you because they were not paying enough attention.
Okay, maybe focus up, Sun. That was not a welcome surprise. Look, we've got a standard exterior door here. Would I need I presume you would need some kind of tool to open this, or is it just a case of there's like a panel and you just...
It's powered off. I'm going to ask you for a tech roll,
Yeah.
not a disadvantage, but you're just going to have to find the manual. This is going to be a clink, turn, and pull situation, which
Gotcha.
is a little bit of a challenge in 0G, but it's designed. The tools are designed to facilitate it.
Great. Okay, cool. Might not be too bad. I don't know why I muted myself and it's made my life hard. That is a 12 plus 1, so it's a 13. You are muted.
You're on mute.
We need to all stop
The,
muting ourselves. I just went breathe into the mic.
The door swings open. There is no sudden outgushing of gas, meaning the inside is either an airlock, which is pumped to vacuum, or is itself in full vacuum.
Can I see the interior airlock door to see if it's ajar or...
If you shine your torch, which I assume you should have brought with you.
Yes.
Um,
I just
in
assume
there.
I have my kit with me generally. Like, yeah.
You'll see that the far end airlock door is sealed.
Okay. In which case, Argo will swing himself into the airlock and make space for Sun so that we can see if it's possible to cycle the airlock manually.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah, it's not a squeeze, but you can both get in. It's a very manual process. This would be a touch of a button otherwise, but you have to kind of futz about and move some valves and stuff. But eventually you equalize the pressure. The warnings on your suit indicate that the air, in inverted commas, on the inside of the vessel is just 100% nitrogen. It's long gone. It's not useful for anything.
Okay. Air's not breathable in here, Sun. It's pure N2. Should we try and move through? Maybe get to the bridge. Probably the best port of call.
Yes, that seems. Yes, they should have life support readings there. I hope.
Yeah. Do we have like interior? Like the whole thing's unpowered, right? So we don't have lights or anything.
Not even emergency lights. This thing is pitch black.
Okay.
What are the oxygen levels?
0 as far as I know. The atmosphere reads pure nitrogen.
That would indicate that the people aboard died of asphyxiation.
Well, yes, but if they did so through conventional means, I would expect the atmosphere to be largely CO2, not nitrogen.
Jarring.
Maybe we should adjust our plans and see if we can get the power back first. What do you think, Son?
It would make things easier.
Yeah, I don't like fumbling around in the dark. Okay. Are we in agreement then? Should we make our way towards the power plant?
Sure.
I assume there's sort of we don't know the layout of this ship, right? We're going to have to try and figure that out.
Yeah, I'll be looking around for sort of signage or indications of where things might be.
The international semiotic standard information guides you easily to the engine room, which of course is at the back of the vessel because that's where you put the engines.
Of course.
Because it makes a difference in space.
Yeah, well, kind of, but yeah, I'm just glad it's not like a tube map situation. Okay, cool. All right.
Are we seeing anything like untoward, like any
detritus, debris, bodies?
No,
poorly rendered 3D objects floating in space.
The little kind of working, kind of arterial corridor you're in is clean. It's kind of pretty immaculate, actually. Everything is stowed and shipshape and fancy free. And that's Yeah, there's certainly no blood splatters or weird scuttling noises or anything like that.
Okay, good, sort of. Okay, Ergo's going to key up AI on the comms then and say, no sign of damage to the exterior, and also the interior seems pristine, though completely vacant and unpowered. Unclear what would cause the ship to lose power at this time. Moving towards the engineering section.
Yeah, if AO doesn't feel like it needed a response, so we'll not respond.
Yeah, that tracks.
Okay, you come into engineering. Who feels like they want to do the tech roll to see what the state is? You're both welcome to do it and tell me if someone wins.
I have a minus behind the curtain, you know. I have a -1 in tech, so
I have a +1. I guess I'm the sort of tablet techie person, so yeah.
I kind of give a slight bow and indicate.
Okay. I guess Ergo's going to set down it's like a sort of ruggedized tablet, right? So they're going to like set it down on the sort of desk space and console or whatever, and see if they can through its own power just sort of maybe try and get the engineering terminal operational to see, or something, to see if there's like some kind of indication of what the status is.
Give me that
Can
roll.
Can I just say that Sun, out of all the looks of our characters, is definitely most likely to bow. The robes, and not that you're wearing the robes. I hope you're not. Just put the robes over the EVA.
That would be a look,
fantastic.
though.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
I'd be.
Yes, you could. That's actually occurred to me. So, do we actually want to describe our characters? I'm not sure we've done it in this one shot.
Oh, we might have to. We might have to do that when we're all together under gravity again. So leave that with me.
Yeah, I will. For the record, I'm showing my roll because I'm like, I got a 16 + 1. It's a 17. It will go wrong for me eventually, I promise. It's doing very well today.
The system is, look, you can't even connect to this thing. It's electrically dead. There's no carrier. However, it doesn't take you too long to figure out that it's going to be pretty straightforward to bootstrap power using the mechanical controls on the system.
Okay. How long is that sort of a process that I will be doing for some time, do you think, while other people do stuff?
I wouldn't say you get the feeling that you get it done in about 30 seconds. You can click beep, but we will pass the. If you're proceeding with the click beep, I'll ask Sun what they're doing.
I'll be kind of looking around the area. Again, probably just finding, if I can, something hefty to either pry things with or hit things with. If that is, I haven't been able to take a crowbar or the trusty stanchion across with me, but
yeah, give me an old savvy roll, I think.
Okay.
I will be at disadvantage because we're still 0G.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I rolled a 20 on the first die. I rolled a 3 on the second. So
no joy.
Boo.
But as you're kind of cursing the fact that everything's wibbly wobbly, spacey wacy, the lights come on as the generator subsystem kind of kicks back to life and the ship kind of powers up.
I got it.
Signal.
What signal?
Power.
Oh, yeah. I got the power on. I thought you meant like a communication. Okay, fine. Well, we have light now. Bridge, Sun, what do you think?
Can we get gravity?
Chris, can we get gravity?
There are no manual controls for the grav generators. So basically, no. And as you kind of futz around on the tablet, you realize that this system is very tightly secured. It's going to be a lot of work to rescue this ship.
You
also notice
you
that
can turn everything on and off but the settings are going to be whatever the settings were when it turned off last time.
Right. 'Cause it's the access control thing.
The ship actually kind of does a tight beam communication over to the far-flung, and kind of it takes you a second, AOI, to realize what's going on, but it's kind of gone, oh, there's someone near, I will make things easier for us. And it's kind of just it doesn't zero out its spin, but it's kind of working with the computer on the far-flung to decide who's going to zero out the spin, and we'll work on that over the next 10 minutes or so.
Can I run like a handshake between the two systems and see if I can get in any way not necessarily access to the systems, but at least some kind of data?
Yeah, you can go ahead and give me a tech roll on that.
The old space Bluetooth.
That's a failure.
No dice. It's definitely doing the basic handshaky stuff itself, but it's not going to give you any information. Again, this thing is tight. Like these salvagers were paranoid.
Not paranoid enough, it would seem. Okay. Well, I assume then Sun and I are sort of drifting our way cumbersomely through towards the bridge then.
Sure. The ship is only slightly larger than the Farflung. It's on a kind of 2-deck layout, which is a kind of more standard. Big cargo bay, arterial corridor going back to engineering. There are some living quarters on the kind of top deck that do appear to have personal effects in them, that are all properly lashed, and so there's not like there's anything floating around suspiciously. You come to the bridge.
AOI will say, if you're going through the cargo deck, check if there's anything to bring back, not just the tools.
Okay, and we are gonna that is directly on our route, correct? Okay.
It's a very small ship. It does not take you long to make that on your route, but can I get a savvy roll from both of you in that case? This is not a disadvantage.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only dexterity rolls related to movement that are at disadvantage in 0G.
I rolled a 9, so that's a failure.
I also rolled a 9. Was it savvy?
Yep.
Yes.
There's an 8 then, in fact.
So the cargo bay is quite a busy place. There are clearly provisions and supplies, and lots of little odds and ends, but nothing specifically strikes you. One thing you do notice is that, as recent as it may seem, stuff has been moved out and moved around. So it's definitely like the quote-unquote recently work was done here. But you carry on forward to the bridge, I assume.
Yeah, I think we'll proceed. We haven't found anything of interest. I'm assuming. To me, it seems intuitive that as we're progressing through the ship, Ergo would be looking for any sign of like leaking coolant or vapor or any kind of gas leak from any kind of atmospheric system or anything that would explain the weird,
or alarms or alerts or status panels or stuff like that.
Because a pure nitrogen atmosphere is just straight bizarre.
Yes. So, do you want to? I'll take a savvy roll for that from you, please, Alex. And because you're kind of focusing on that, I'll say, son, you get to the bridge first. You open it. It is conspicuous in its emptiness. There's certainly no bodies floating around, so the ship is completely deserted. The bridge is powered up at this stage, but again, there's the readouts that are any detailed readouts are not legible. Do you want to give me some questions as to what you'd be kind of tapping around to find in the short term? And while you're coming up with those, how did you do on that, Alex?
Another 9 - 1 on the old savvy, so no dice.
No explanation is forthcoming as to why, and like you don't hear the sound of any pumps either.
At the risk of doing something that I actually casually loathe players doing, I as Matt have been thinking about why the atmosphere could be pure nitrogen, I think Aoi will also have been thinking that. So could I also make the roll?
Yeah, sure.
I make
for
a
the fun of
perception
it.
check.
Sure. My savvy is dirt, so like it probably won't succeed. It just succeeded. 18.
Nice.
What's the tea there, Matt? Spill the tea.
What?
Were you waiting for God to tell you? Now God's like, tell me
Oh,
what.
okay, so I want
No,
to
I
hear your
don't know.
theory, actually.
Oh, I have a theory.
I don't. That's why I made the roll, because I'm genuinely can't think of anything.
Well, I can
you
share my
have-
theory with you if you.
Yeah,
It's like
let's
it's
do
been. Go on.
There's life forms that breathe in nitrogen and use it, but I can't think of any that use it as that like exhale nitrogen. So I don't know, like a leak, but I can't think of any natural reason it could occur.
So my worry was that it was like, not that this is the product of something being exhaled as a waste product by any kind of creature, is that some creature had made this the correct habitat for itself and it breathes nitrogen. That was my worry. So
my guess is that it's been flushed like a bag of crisps, just to
just
remove all human breathable gas.
Yeah,
and make it sterile. But anyway,
So
I've
I
not
think,
said that.
Matt,
So.
Off the back of your success, you've managed to eventually conquer the kind of slightly higher level handshakes, and the system is still not giving you any meaningful information, but it is giving you kind of fundamental basics. And some of the things you are able to discern now is that, one, the system has no fuel left in it, and two, the life support is switched off.
Don't remove your EVA suits. Life support is completely offline. Also, there's no fuel, so this isn't moving anywhere without a tug.
okay.
Unless you want to just send it off in a random direction, I suppose.
Well, so far it's harmless. So that doesn't seem to be a productive use of our time. However, before we're done here, I suppose we should do a more thorough sweep of the cargo bay to see if there's anything useful. But we didn't find anything. So, okay. Well, I guess we're gonna try and figure out where the crew are.
Yeah, I was on the bridge. I was going to be trying to find, I guess, logs or status logs, ship readout, that sort of thing that would catalog events on the ship or pilot interactions, that sort of thing.
I will disappoint you and save your role. While this information is clearly being stored on the system's computer, which is 100% in full working order, it is absolutely not disposed to tell you a single thing, certainly not without a password.
Look around for post-it notes.
I was going to say, I'm immediately looking under the desk, like, trying to find the, like, little notes, birthday cards, and dated, so I can be like, put their birthdays in as passcodes or something. Okay. Son, any ideas?
It seems clean. Too clean. We can maybe look through the crew quarters. Perhaps there's a clue there, but I'm not sure we're going to gain anything from this ship.
Is there? So we've gone through the engineering section. We've gone through the cargo and not found anything. We know there's living quarters search, which is a good idea. If we were going to find these tools that we were hoping to find, these specialized tools for extricating this quantum computer from its housing, I assume we would have been looking in the engineering section or the cargo for that, right? And we haven't found it.
I assume you know what they look like and that Chris wouldn't hinge the entire success on one savvy.
Oh, it was just, it looks like a regular spanner, but it's actually,
Quantum spanner.
Quantum spanner, yeah.
Didn't you go to quantum school, you quantum idiot?
Amateur hour. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think there's a number of savvy rolls that can be made. Are you going to split up and maybe someone can take the accommodation rooms and someone can take a look at the cargo?
Do you want to split the party?
Now, I would say Ergo would not want to do this for two reasons. One, I think Ergo is quite creeped out by not understanding what the hell, why anything is the way it is right now, and is quite easily spooked. And also that we know of, there's the wider time constraint of like the station moving into the shadow of the planet, but there's not an immediate time pressing thing that makes me want to split. So
I mean, other than the amount of oxygen in the EVA. So
I was just going to mention that. Can everyone please take 2 pips off their oxygen?
2?
Oh, are you going to ambush us
with 2 hours?
Jeez.
Jeez.
I thought it'd be less than 1.
I was like, wow, we haven't even done 1 pip yet. And there, Chris.
Yeah, if you hadn't have mentioned it, I would have forgotten it and you'd be fine. So maybe wrap this up within the next 4 hours.
Okay. Well,
perhaps we should just leave.
We should just stop making rational decisions out loud, where Chris can hear us. Yeah.
Hop onto the Discord channel where we can chat about stuff like that.
Yeah, just like time out every 2 minutes. Okay. Maybe we should split then. Maybe we should split. If oxygen's a concern, we can't breathe over here. I already have 1 out on my tank. So that's
I've got 8 hit points, so I'm fine.
I've got 3 hit points, and I'm already like halfway through my tank. So I think Ergo is going to be slightly worried. I think Ergo would be pretty scared by that prospect.
Cool. So let's get a someone pick who's going to the engineering bay, and can I get a roll from them first?
Who do we think makes sense? Like maybe.
I think Glitch is probably more technical than Sun.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So Savvy for Ergo in the engineering. Okay. Right. Oh, Savvy hasn't been good so far. That's
Remember, you can spend void points to roll with advantage.
Oh, do I need to do that in advance? But okay. Well, I'm racking up void points, and that's my 3rd 9 Savvy roll in a row.
That's
crazy. Anyway, so I will remember to use my void points. Sorry.
It's some kind of message, I think, from the void.
999. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that, does it?
Especially not if you read it upside down.
How is your Savvy looking today?
Let's see. Damn it! I forgot to do the thing that I just suggested, which was yes, I rolled an 11, and I didn't use a void point, so I also failed.
There's really nothing much to be said about these accommodation blocks. Like I said, there are personal effects here, but nothing no one left their tablets behind. No one kind of left their hollow chips behind. It's all kind of there's bits and pieces that might be useful, but maybe for another time, perhaps, if you're really interested in scooping the place out.
There are no nice audio logs.
No, unfortunately not. I am not a hack. You will not be getting any. You, however, will re-enter the cargo bay on your way to rendezvous with Ergo again, and I will give you one last, for the love of God, spend your points and roll your Savvy for me.
I believe in you. Don't roll a friggin' 9 or I'll lose my mind.
Well, I used a void point to roll with advantage. I rolled a 15 and a 20.
Great. At last. You are, with a 20, completely certain that this place does not contain any kind of specific quantum anything. What you do find, however, is, like I said, provisions and quite a lot of just general tools. And perhaps most useful, you do find some ammunition, a couple of kind of universal pistol clips and other bits and pieces that are probably less useful for you. No firearms, but definitely kind of an ammo cache.
Sure. Well, I'll sort of gather what I can carry and give some to Glitch on the way back as well, because I know we do have a pistol at least that can use ammo. So
yes, this also implies that wherever the crew of the ship now are, they may well have been armed, which is worth bearing in mind, and it may be worth keeping that ammunition with us rather than storing it. Yeah. Okay.
You also note, son, that there are kind of slots for 4 EVA suits, all of which are kind of empty.
So presumably they're still on the station.
They seems like they must be on the station. Yeah. How the ship got into this state with no one on it, I don't know. That's beyond me. I haven't been able to glean anything further here, so perhaps it's time we moved on.
Yeah, I'd agree. Let's get back and refill these tanks.
Yeah, I'm particularly keen on that plan because I got a bogus unit here, and I'm already looking pretty low. So let's get a hustle on.
Yeah. That's,
so is the plan now that we would traverse directly to the station? Or would we?
AOI's plan is certainly to dock at the station.
We would go back to the ship and then dock with everyone. Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. Great. Cool.
I'll drag you along behind me if you want.
Just like, whee! Yeah. I mean, I'm down.
Worked on The Martian.
Okay, it is.
I'll just wait for them to be aboard.
Yeah, no, it's trivial to get across, and I won't force anyone to do any wacky rolls. Last person out kind of untangles the tether, so the ships aren't tethered together, and kind of pulls himself in on it. Once everyone's free and clear, you notice that the other ship has started to arrest its spin with its cold gas thrusters and just kind of put itself in station keeping beside the literal station. Everyone can get back on board and doff the suits and plug back into the oxygen generators to pump their tanks back up.
Here's a question, and maybe I'm digging too hard into the science here. I don't know. If it's out of fuel, how are the emergency systems on?
It's out of drive fuel. It
Right.
seems to have certainly enough power to run itself, and you may also have noticed I did specifically specify cold gas thrusters, and there's plenty of nitrogen.
Yes, so separate RCS tanks, and it's got its own. Yeah, so it's out of like main drive propellant, like reactants, but not out of like.
Not out of power.
Not out of Presumably it has like
Okay.
a battery. Yeah,
I was mainly curious. I wasn't digging for holes. I was just
but I like getting into all that hard sci-fi.
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm less of a nerd than you two.
I love thinking about how the ships work.
Don't come at me on my home turf, Matt. It will not end well.
Oh no! You are far more nerdy about these things than I am. I have more of a life. I'm happy to flag up these.
Yeah, it's okay. You're a massive dork, and I defer to you. Like it's okay, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone is back kind of in civvies, I suppose, and I'd like maybe let's take this opportunity just to talk about maybe everyone just takes a moment to meet up in the so-called living quarters, which are a generous term for this ship, and I'd like finally to get physical descriptions from everyone.
Oh, that was a weird pause in that sentence. Okay, cool.
And now we're in the living quarters. Fight Club.
Yeah, I was like, "Whoa, okay, let me check my body stat." Jeez.
Yeah. Shall I go first? So Aoi is very tall, very slender. I I described them in the first one shot as very kind of 80s androgynous. They have a shaved head. Their features are very kind of aquiline, very slightly kind of predatory look about them, like sort of raptor-like sense, like a shaved. This is one of the Matt things where people will go, "What?" Like a shaved Dracula, right? If you've read the book, the way Dracula's just like that. But yeah, anyway, Ao is wearing very, again, old-fashioned, high status, but so old they're now falling apart, kind of like skin tight bodysuit, and just a minor thing. All of their arms entirely have been replaced by kind of cybernetic, chrome-plated, cybernetic arms. Although the chrome has been there so long, it is starting to kind of blacken and corrode slightly. Yeah, that's AoE. Oh, and a detail, sorry, I mentioned from the last one. Looking into Aoi's eyes is slightly uncomfortable. Like there's a weight of time behind them that sort of, yeah, it makes you feel a bit weird.
Tell us a little bit more about Sun then.
Sure. Yeah, so Sun is usually, unless he's in an EVA suit, is usually, dressed in ragged cloaks. He's not massively bulky, but slightly taller, slightly sort of heavier than average, maybe. He does have this, and the most striking feature is probably this sort of low polygon mask that he wears mostly all the time, unless he's in his spacesuit, which is yes, an approximation of a human face. His skin, if you do catch sight of it, is essentially like ash grey. Something's happened to him. He's not entirely human anymore. Not exactly like a space zombie, but there are lots of wounds and they haven't really healed. And there are bits of metal sticking out from various points as well, which doesn't seem to bother him particularly. But yeah, so yes, kind of like weird space zombie in a cloak with a hood with a nice mask.
And Ergo, what are you wearing?
He said in a husky voice. So
very strange, don't it?
In my yes, I was going to say in my previous I think when I've mentioned the look of Ergo, I haven't gone into much detail. So the way I envision it is Ergo's, compared to his two crewmates, quite ordinary looking when he's not weirdly sort of displacing and blurring slightly about and becoming hazy around the edges and things and strangeness. But like there are times at which he'll seem completely normal, and there are times where that might be that phenomenon might become a bit more intense. There's no discernible rhyme or reason to why or when that happens or for how long. It's just completely beyond. He has no idea what happens. Or can't predict it, but he is quite. He's not tiny, but he's like a shorter guy, maybe like 5'6" or so, and he's very ordinary looking, but he's clearly sort of permanently exhausted. Has quite like sunken eyes and cheeks. He has the sort of look of a well worn down sort of mechanic in a way. He's got these coveralls and he's just got like sort of bags and pockets and pouches everywhere, and they're just full of stuff, but it's all pretty like useless and menial. It's just like little useful little gadgets or tools for like really ordinary mundane technical tasks or whatever. And it's kind of like oil stains on his coveralls and stuff. I hadn't gone into much detail beyond that mentally. Like, I imagine he's probably got sort of like quite close cropped black hair and brown eyes, and has a sort of world weary demeanor, but not in fact nowhere near as world weary as Aoi, because that's no one can approach that level of
Aoi is kind of eon weary.
Exactly. Yeah. Ergo's world weary in a very ordinary, banal, mortal way. Yeah.
Like a Highlander who's done with this shit.
I imagine as well that there are times where it makes maybe, like, for example, in that last spacewalk, it might make Sun slightly nervous or like uncertain about what's happening, because as you're sort of traversing the tether for a moment, like Ergo's frame might appear to be like displaced off to the side, and it looks like they've like disconnected from the tether and they're going to drift off. And it's like, oh no, it's just like a momentary fluctuation in your perception of their position and things like that.
So I think Aoi, one of the things you've been, while these two have been poking around in the derelict, one of the things you have noticed is that the station is not dead. It's not very alive, but it's very much willing to accept docking. It's not under any kind of restricted details. It looks like someone's been futzing around with the software as well, because kind of it broadcasts its name as like Davy was here, and then a date stamp from like an expedition 4 years ago, and kind of there's evidence that it's been screwed around with, but it's definitely a functioning docking clamp.
If the others are nearby enough to hear Aoi when Aoi makes the discovery about someone messing with the systems, they will hear a kind of tight, coiled hiss of breath. And if they are very close, they might hear Aoi say, "Amateurs."
So it's a whole station. Let me. I think Aoi, you've done a couple of sonar pings on this, and you've managed to draw out on one of the old kind of vector displays a little kind of facsimile of what the station looks like. When you two were out kind of on the tether, it was the station. There's definitely a structure out there, but it was too far away to get the detail. But Aoi's managed to build this now. So I will share a link to the picture of the station. There we go. It's maybe a little difficult to see on white on black in that style, but yeah, it's this weird kind of slightly off kilter. Not interestingly, it looks like it's configured to be a spin station, but very much has kind of a horizontal artificial gravity construction to it. Like the top is up and the bottom is down, and that's quite unusual. Almost decadent to design something like that in this day and age when spin gravity is free. It's pretty big as well.
If I briefly move the far-flung up towards the top of that station in a direct line from that dish, do I get any kind of like anything coming in or out?
Transmissions? No, it's communicating like near range baseline kind of UHF to you on the far flung. It's not sending out any pings any further from what you can tell.
I very, very briefly, my fingers hover near like the bulkhead I use for transmitting out, and then my hand moves away and I set the course for docking.
Great. The far-flung, somewhat automated actually, and kind of negotiated on both parts. The far-flung brings itself up to the top of the station, to that kind of superstructure, that boxy superstructure you can see, and kind of sets itself down into a kind of ship-sized airlock hangar, which kind of creakingly kind of closes over the top of the far-flung once it's in, and you get you get the far flung telling you that there has been a atmospheric increase in the surrounding area. And again, only nitrogen though. It doesn't seem to be healthy, breathable air. But yeah, after a couple of minutes, the Farflung's readouts flash green and say, look, if you want to get off, please use the airlock, but it's safe to do so.
And we're safe to do so. We're not going to contaminate our air supply. Like the airlock's going to keep that all separate. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, you'll be leaving by the airlock. You'll still need your EVA suits, but there is now gravity. It's not great. It seems to be like 0.5 Earth normal. So it's definitely boingy and a little bit weird, but will be maybe a little bit more sparing. You certainly won't be taking 0G disadvantages. You'll just be taking I'm wearing a spacesuit disadvantages for Dex from now on.
Cool.
Well, I better get a start on then, because it's half an hour to suit up in a heavy EVA. So they're going to start that process.
Yeah. So actually, I want not so much a flashback, but you got some ammo from the cargo bay on the last ship. I'd like you to, each of you, Steve and Alex, to tell me what other kind of just generic item that you picked up, because that ship had quite a lot of stuff in fairly good working order. What other thing would you have alluded?
It's crazy, right? I found this quantum computer just like lying in the middle of the deck.
I just fight.
Yeah. I'm honestly not sure. I want to think for a second. Right, jump in, Steve. Yeah, we have a good idea, because I have to have a think.
I mean, is there a table you could just roll on?
Yeah, there's some good tables here. We can take a look at that as well.
I don't think they're not really designed for rolling, but I'm sure if you just roll a d20,
because I don't want to like insert an item that is now useful in like, oh, I found this MacGuffin. That was lucky.
You can't find a MacGuffin. I am not a hack,
Okay.
but you're welcome to find a utility item of some description. Like you can find a crowbar, a screwdriver, some kind of electric.
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably go for a crowbar. That was definitely my.
But not a quantum screwdriver, to be clear.
No,
it's a quantum crowbar. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. What would be cool? I've got like random, like handy tools like that. So it's like I'm trying to think. What about something like an intact and charged power cell or something, like a portable power cell?
Yeah, I think what you find is like a little, just basically a USB power bank.
Yeah,
that seems to still have a charge in it. It could do with another half an hour on a system, but I suppose you've got half an hour now. You can charge it up off the Farflung's generator. So you've got a little charged kind of space USB power brick. It's not going to start a car, but
a literal universal serial bus. Anyway.
Yeah. Any notions there, Steve?
Oh, was I on mute? I was going to go for a nice trusty crowbar.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, I missed that bit. So with that, I think Aoi, you're all three of you now have your EVA suits on. Aoi's is a heavy EVA suit. Do you want to describe your specific heavy EVA suit?
Sure. Yeah. As with everything Aoi owns, it's very old-fashioned. In look, it looks very similar to a much more advanced, bulked-out version of spacesuits that we use today in the real world, but it has like a large control panel on the front of it. It's got a slot on the sleeve for sliding in a tablet, and it's worth noting that at normal gravity, it's not, human beings aren't capable of moving in it. The only reason people can move, even in like obviously weightlessness, but the only reason I can move in half gravity is because the entire thing has a thruster system. So, like, it's in the very loose sense of the word, it's an exoskeleton, but not one. It's not like a little mech or something. It's just, but looks like a spacesuit, but modern spacesuit, much more bulky, kind of more advanced material, more bells and whistles and stuff.
Excellent. So with everyone set up, your oxygens are all back to full, except yours, Alex.
Naturally.
And,
so I'm one tick down, is that correct?
You're
'Cause that's the
permanently
count.
one tick down due to a little. It would take you about 3 hours to fix it. It's not. You know what's wrong with it. It's not a
we had
terrible.
3
had
weeks.
3 weeks.
We had
You
3
had
weeks.
3 weeks. No one mentioned anything.
I thought it could be fixed. That's on me. Okay.
Yeah, so you crack the airlock and step out into the hangar bay here on the station. The geometry of this place is certainly Euclidean, but you're not kind of used to the design keys here. This doesn't look like something you've set foot in before. It seems very kind of a lot of gantries going on, a lot of stringers and kind of things attached to other things that maybe not structurally necessary. It was built to last, and last it has. Working your way towards the only exit, except for up, of the kind of hangar bay, you get into kind of what is best described as the infrastructure area of the station. And my friends, it has been stripped. It's very clear that this was once a busy plant room with all kinds of machinery for sustaining life and all kinds of computing and infrastructure control mechanisms. All of that has been very clearly removed. Some evidence that it's been done deftly, some evidence that it was done indeftly. At the far end of that room, there is a kind of very large set of double doors that are closed. And beside it, there is a local spot generator and some other kind of bits and pieces that have been left or jerry-rigged together, which seems to be some kind of console system there. And that's what you see as you enter in. And I think at that point, while you formulate how you're going to get through a bulkhead door, we will take a quick break to give everyone a little bit of time to decompress.
I see what you did there.
Please don't decompress.
Certainly not explosively. Cool. Yeah, we'll take 10 minutes, folks, and we'll see you back here real soon.
I'll go decompress like a sad trombone kind of noise.
Bye.
Oh.